Let's talk about the Steele dossier, man.
Yes.
So we have this story from the Washington Post, and this is a little bit more in the weeds on the politics, but this is really, really important. So for those that are just tuning in or who are not familiar with what's going on with the Steele dossier and the Durham investigation, I'll put it simply: for years there were lies from Democrats and the media about Trump colluding with Russia. None of it was true, and now it looks like the people who perpetrated the hoax for years are starting to get charged. And so we have this story from the Washington Post. Indictment of Steele dossier source is more bad news for multiple media outlets. Let me just break this down very simply for those that may not understand the in-the-weeds stuff. The media lied, they're caught. Political operatives lied, they're caught. Politicians lied and got caught.
Snap.
And Kash, you have a lot of information about this.
Man, yeah. So look, the Steele dossier, and I don't think I've ever actually told anyone this, but when I was running the Russiagate investigation for Chairman Nunes, initially the media wanted to call it the Trump dossier, and I said, no, we're going to call it the Steele dossier. So because I said this thing is fraudulent. So if you're going to tie it to someone, tie it to the author. And we changed the narrative real quick in the early days, and it stuck.
Wow.
And actually, I've never told that to anybody. And so, look, I can go on and on about the Russiagate hoax. I spent 2 years of my life living it, and then getting validated by the IG, and now this. Basically, if you want to know what happened, watch The Plot Against the President. We're in it. It's super easy to watch and understand if you want to get up to speed on Russiagate. The Steele dossier is the heart of Russiagate. What happens? The Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign go out and pay a foreign national, Christopher Steele, a retired British spy, to go and get dirt from Russia against then candidate Trump. The problem is Christopher Steele hadn't set foot in Russia in 20 years. Fact. Then we're like, wait a second. Who paid for all this? Oh, Hillary Clinton. They paid the law firm, who was also previously indicted just before this one, Perkins Coie, $10 million. So now you have the political campaign, a political operative, as you said, and the lawyers now teaming up together with fraudulent information. What do they do with that? They don't just dump it in the media. That would have been one thing, to go after your opponent and just dirty him up in usual political tricks. They take the FBI and the DOJ and they hijack the surveillance process. And they basically say, here's this information from this guy. We're not going to present the court, the judge, with all of it. We're going to give you pieces of it. We're going to keep exculpatory information of innocence out. We're going to prevent the court from hearing who paid for it and that it went to Hillary Clinton and her lawyers. And then we're going to go surveil a presidential candidate because that's what we want to do.
They ultimately, they didn't impeach him on Russiagate, but
no, Ukrainegate
was, and that was insane too. But for the Russia stuff, so this article we have from the Washington Post is from Eric Wemple. He's a media critic, and he's been doing a really good job going after the media for their malpractice, for their malfeasance.
It's shocking that he is.
I know. Yeah. This is the Washington Post. This is democracy dies in darkness. But he recently did a story about Joe Rogan and ivermectin. And he was like, CNN's acting like an advocacy, like activist organization by lying about this stuff. So I don't want to rehash, or I don't want to bring all that stuff up just yet. We're talking about, Russiagate and stuff. But he opens right away by saying, MSNBC host Rachel Maddow in December 2017 aired a special report on the Trump-Russia dossier compiled by former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele. The document, claimed Maddow, relied on information coming from Steele's deep cover sources inside Russia. A federal indictment unsealed Thursday has something to say about the quality of those sources. It charges Igor Danchenko, the dossier's primary intelligence collector, with making false statements to the FBI about his interactions with sources consulted for the dossier. When Trump first got elected, there was a guy who tweeted, "We're going to impeach him." I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
Oh man, it was probably.
It was one of the lawyers. No, it was one of the lawyers on Ukrainegate.
Oh, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not allowed to say the name of the whistleblower in that case, just so you know. That YouTube will delete the video.
I won't say it.
Isn't that insane?
That's censoring.
But let's we'll get to the heart of what this is. Russiagate was for how many years of lying? 5 years of lying?
5. We're on 5. And here's the thing, and you're right. The reason this article is so important is, who's Christopher Steele? Who cares about this guy? He got paid all this money. He was just doing dirty tricks for a political party. Okay, fine, one thing. Where did he get all this information from? This guy. They are now saying, the Washington Post is now admitting, based on Durham's indictment, the special counsel's indictment, that the mountain of information that the source Steele got from his primary guy in Russia was total BS, totally fraudulent. So their entire investigation, the FBI's entire investigation, just got gutted. And if I can juxtapose two things, right? This Washington Post article, and we all know who David Ignatius is. He wrote a hit piece on me 3 months ago on the cover of the Washington Post. He wrote a hit piece on me because he knew the Russiagate conspiracy was unraveling. We had proven it to be defective. So what does he do? Headline: Chief investigator for Russiagate is possibly leaking classified information to the media. So now I get a wave of media hits coming at me the next day, not just in America, but overseas, saying Kash Patel leaks classified information. Wow. This is what they do. So it's shocking to me that the Washington Post would let this ride, but I'm happy that they did.
You would think there would be some repercussions for lying through their teeth and just admitting so many important facts. I remember looking at this story from the very beginning being like, okay, intelligence agents, sources say, government sources say. I'm like, where's the evidence? Where's the documents? Where's any photos? Where's any document? Where's anything that proves that this is legitimate? I was like, there's nothing here. I call bunk. I don't believe this. The intelligence agencies have lied before, and they kept saying, well, there's 17 intelligence agencies. There's 17 of them. I'm like, I don't believe any of this. And I got called a crazy conspiracy theorist. I got listed by the Washington Post as a Russian asset, as working for the Russians. By the way, I'm Polish. For Polish people, they get very offended when they get compared to Russians. But the Washington Post literally listed my news organization, We Are Change, as a Russian asset organization because I wasn't buying the official story. And not only did they lie through their teeth about everything, they attacked anyone who even dared question it.
They wrecked lives.
It's a cult. Okay, so I see the memes all day where they're like Trump's cult, and I'm like, yeah, but is Trump's cult at the Washington Post writing fake news for 5 years?
Yeah.
Trying to get people impeached and ruining people's lives? I'm sorry, man. You get a bunch of people showing up at the grassy knoll or whatever thinking JFK Jr. is coming back. It has no impact on our federal level politics. It was a couple hundred people. I don't know why I should care about that. When the media, when ABC, when CNN, when Washington Post, and the New York Times, when they're winning Pulitzer Prizes for making up fake news.
Are they going to get that retracted? Are they going to get that prize rejected, rescinded, whatever? Probably not.
You know what scares me the most about this story is how absolutely devastating it is, how it contributed to the political divide as it worsens today, and how it's very difficult to understand.
Let me follow up with two things. One, in 2017, now everybody's like, Kash, Trump's right-hand man, whatever. Do you know when I had not met President Trump, spoken to him, campaigned for him? I was a career government guy. So the 2 years I ran Russiagate, I have never spoken to the man, nor communicated with him. I just ran an investigation. Now, in retrospect, they're saying Kash Patel was President Trump's best friend running the Russiagate investigation. It's pretty hard to do when you've never met the man. Now, the other thing that you brought up that I'd like to highlight is the lives that were wrecked. And I'll leave the names out of it. We interviewed a lot of witnesses. One individual, a father, right, he had to utilize his entire life savings just for lawyers because he got called into the committee by Adam Schiff to testify about nothing meaningful. His daughter relapsed, a recovering drug addict relapsed because of the coverage her father received in the media and went into a downward spiral and almost died. He then had to take a second mortgage on his house to pay for his daughter's rehab.
Jeez, man.
That's reality.
I think Adam Schiff is an evil guy.
Don't get me started on that guy. He's
evil.
Can I ask, what was happening in the intelligence agencies? Because we kept hearing 17 of them all agree. They're all on board. They know there was Russian collusion 100%. And that's the headline that was running in the mainstream media. Everyone was still looking for evidence, but they were running with it like it was just the truth from God. What was happening? Because there was no pushback at all that I've seen from any of these intelligence agencies to be like, hey, actually, we don't have nothing here.
Yeah, so it didn't come till halfway through Trump's term when we shifted around leadership in the intelligence community. But in the beginning, the first 2 years, you basically had a willing media like you're talking about, and Adam Schiff and people like that were leaking classified information to say, well, we can't get into the details, but Trump colluded. Trump had a pee party.
The envelope.
Trump did this, the envelope.
Yeah.
Reading the Steele dossier into congressional testimony as if it was the Bible. Just things like that, and you get your headlines, and the media gets their headlines, and they all wanted to take out Donald Trump. So that was it.
Didn't they claim that he peed on a bed in a hotel or something?
Yeah. You want to know something hilarious about that? So I said, I was talking to Devin. I said, look, we got to do two things as a former prosecutor. Follow the money. Somebody paid for this thing. Let's go get bank records, which is how I was able to prove Fusion GPS and the Clintons paid for all this, right?
Wow.
And they wanted to crucify me when I took them to federal court. But the other thing is I said, look, this is pretty crazy. Trump's having sex parties in Russia. Like, I don't know that you can get away with it without a lot of people finding out. So let's call the hotel. I called the hotel. The hotel does not have that presidential suite that this infamous Christopher Steele, this career spy, slotted into his Steele dossier. I said, if the hotel room doesn't even exist, do you think the rest of this dossier has credibility? This guy can't even get the hotel room right? We were right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing there, and then this should tell you the huge amounts of lies that the government, along with some intelligence agencies, some people within it, along with the mainstream media, could all in unison work together to fool everyone, because everyone was buying.
They didn't fool you.
Well, yeah, but then they ostracized and attacked anyone who wasn't buying the official story. And then this was one of the reasons why Wikipedia censored me and depersoned me on their platform. It was because of that Washington Post article that said I was a Russian asset, which I wasn't. I mean, there was no evidence suggesting this at all, and it was just smear mongering by smear merchants who get off at ruining people's lives. But for a journalist who was around at that time, all you had to do is ask some questions, being like, okay, let's actually find out what really happened here, and barely any people did that.
Let's talk about we'll advance from here, talk about Ukraine Gate. So this is where they actually impeached Donald Trump with the lies about Ukraine. And the crazy thing was, I was tracking the news. I was looking at European news sources. I was looking at the history of the founder of Burisma. This is the company where Hunter Biden, the president's son, was a board member. And my conclusion on this was like, okay, first, I entertained Russiagate. You know, like, I'm just like reading the news. I'm like, wow, this is crazy stuff. I actually met with one of the most high-profile Russiagate journalists and asked them, like, to their face, looked in their eyes, do you think Trump actually did this? And they were like, without a doubt, he did. And I was like, wow. And I'm like, I'm at a bar with one of these, like, you know, mainstream media journalists telling me, like, bro, we have the proof. I've seen it. And I'm like, wow. And it's all fake. So then Ukraine Gate comes along, and this is where, you know, Trump apparently sees a video on Twitter of Joe Biden being like, if you want the aid, you got to fire the prosecutor. So Trump just is like, I wonder what that's about. I'm not necessarily trying to rehash Ukraine Gate, but to point out, you end up with these journalists like Matt Taibbi.
Yeah, great guy.
Formerly of Rolling Stone, real journalist, and he's a liberal guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now he's an alt-right grifter.
And same with Aaron Mate. You know?
Right, Aaron Mate, he's a progressive.
Yeah. I've done both those guys. I've interviewed both those guys, done podcasts with both those guys. We could not be more politically opposed to each other. But there used to be a time when you could be a real journalist, as you're talking about. And if there's corruption or illegality, you would call it out if it was right or left. Those seem to be the only guys on the left that want to do it anymore.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.